Shalom everyone! So just a reminder for this series that this is just for educational purposes to educate the people who grew up outside of the land of Israel who are unaware of these events taking place. They might have learned American history or European history or Australian history wherever they are from, so they are unaware that these events happened. And due to the large-scale conspiracy theorists all over the internet, their only introduction to these things is in this lens. So it either causes them to deny that they happened because they can't conceive that such things would happen, or it causes them to question, right? It causes them to have questions. So what were these events and why did they happen? It took less than a day of the Struma video coming out for people saying, okay, you can say that Struma was an accident, that it was an accidental torpedo incident, and even if they hadn't been torpedoed, they would have just naturally succumbed to bad weather or boat conditions or living conditions or whatever. Out at sea, they had no chance. You can say that, but bombs are not an accident. And that's true, bombs are not an accident. And this leads to an earlier instance, the Patricia incident. So before we get into what exactly the Patricia incident is, what exactly was going on leading up to this event. The Jewish community in Palestine, known as the Yishuv, was a semi-autonomous entity under British rule, pursuing the goal of Jewish homeland as promised by the 1917 Balfour Declaration. However, by 1940, the Zionist project faced mounting challenges from the British policy, Arab opposition, and the escalating crisis of Jewish refugees fleeing Nazi Europe. The Yishuv was a mix of Jewish settlements, kibbutzim, cities like Tel Aviv, and institutions like the Jewish Agency, which acted as a proto-government. Zionist leaders, primarily labor Zionists like Ben Gurion, were building infrastructure and a militia, the Haganah, to defend against Arab attacks, push their agenda. Immigration, or Aliyah, was the lifeblood of this effort, with about 250,000 Jews in Palestine by 1939, up from 83,000 in 1922. But the British, juggling their mandate obligations, had shifted course with the 1939 White Paper, capping Jewish immigration at about 75,000 over 5 years, promising an independent Palestine, likely Arab majority, within a decade. This was a direct response to the 1936 through 1939 Arab Revolt, which killed hundreds and pressured Britain to prioritize Arab goodwill amid looming war in Germany. What did I say in the previous video? The more things change, the more they stay the same. If you told me that this was happening today, I'd believe you. I'd believe you. The same appeasement over the same temper tantrums, the same result every time, over and over again, and we're just not seemingly breaking the cycle, right? We are not changing nothing. We are doing the same things and expecting different results. But anyway, what exactly is this 1939 White Paper? The 1939 White Paper, officially titled the Palestine Statement of Policy, was a British policy document issued on May 17, 1939 that redefined their approach to the mandate for Palestine amid rising tensions. It came after the 1936 through 1939 Arab Revolt, which protested Jewish immigration and land purchases, and as World War II loomed. In brief, it aimed to appease Arab demands while scaling back Zionist vision of a Jewish homeland promised in the 1917 Balfour Declaration. Immigration cap. Jewish immigration was limited to 75,000 over the next 5 years, which would require Arab consent, effectively halting it, giving Arab opposition. This was a sharp U-turn from earlier open-ended support for Jewish entry. Land restrictions. Jewish land purchases were curtailed, with new regulations to be set by the High Commissioner protecting Arab ownership in much of Palestine. Independence Plan. It promised an independent Palestine within 10 years, governed jointly by Arabs and Jews, but with Arabs as the majority, roughly 70% of the population in 1939, implying no Jewish state. These types of conversations where people are declaring ownership over something, it's like splitting up toys between kids or territory between kids or something, kids playing house, or I don't know, it's just so ridiculous when you think about it in the landscape of the world and everything in it belongs to God. The Torah is very clear. The land of Israel belongs to God, and the only people who can live in it are the people that he says can live in it. But here comes man to say, just kidding, I'm here to decide who gets to be in what areas of the world. But as you can see, the tension was rising, people were making desperate decisions, and the Patricia incident is a prime example of that. The SS Patricia incident refers to the sinking of a ship carrying Jewish refugees in Haifa harbor, Palestine, on November 25, 1940, during the British Mandate period. The Patricia, a French-built ocean liner under British control, was docked in Haifa with about 1,800 Jewish refugees on board, mostly from Nazi-occupied Europe, including Germany, Austria, and Czechoslovakia. They arrived on 3 smaller ships as part of Aliyah Bet, illegal immigration efforts organized by Zionist groups like the Haganah and the revisionist Zionists to evade Britain's 1939 white paper quotas. The British, enforcing their cap of 75,000 Jewish immigrants over 5 years, refused them entry and planned to deport them to Maltrias, a British colony in the Indian Ocean. To stop the deportation, the Haganah planted a bomb on the Patricia, intending to damage it just enough to keep it in port and force negotiations. The operation went horribly wrong. On November 25, 1940, the bomb, hidden in the ship's hold, exploded with far more force than expected, ripping a massive hole in the hull. The Patricia sank in 16 minutes, killing 267 people, including 200 refugees and some crew, while injuring 172 more. Most victims drowned or were trapped below deck. Survivors were rescued by local boats or swam ashore. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, why a bomb? Aren't there other ways to sabotage a vessel to prevent it from being seaworthy? Sabotage the engine, hull damage above waterline, rudder or steering failure, contaminated fuel or water supplies, anchor trickery, flood non-critical compartments. So, with all of these options, why wasn't one of these options selected? Why did they resort to putting a bomb on the boat? In the Patricia's case, the Haganah bomb was likely chosen for speed and certainty. They had hours, not days, to act before the Maltrias deportation. Explosives were familiar from their anti-Arab and anti-British operations, but their inexperience with maritime sabotage shows. These alternatives assumed time, tools, or crew infiltration, which they lacked under wartime scrutiny. Still, engine sabotage or rudder damage could have achieved the goal, keeping the ship in Haifa with far less peril if they had the chance to plan it right. So, could it be that somebody just panicked under pressure and said, let's just do this, it's a risk, but we're going to do it, because if we risk and succeed, we will have saved people. If we will not succeed, then they're being deported anyway. What's going to become of them? And it was a gamble, right? They made a gamble. Now, what you think about that gamble is up to you. It's up to you to do your own research and to think critically about these events. But what ended up happening to these survivors? The British allowed the survivors to stay in Palestine, a rare concession, but the incident sparked fury. Zionists blamed the British policy for pushing them to such drastic measures, while the Haganah faced internal criticism for the miscalculation. Some say the bomb was meant for a smaller ship, others say that its strength was underestimated. The sinking exposed the desperation of Jewish refugees, an escalating clash between Zionist goals and the British restrictions, amplifying calls to end the white paper and open Palestine's doors. It's remembered as a tragic misstep in the fight for a Jewish homeland. What exactly happened here? Was it just the perfect storm of tension and things bubbling over, or was there something more at play? Some theories that get floated around are theories like these. The Haganah deliberately sank it. Some speculate this wasn't a mistake, that the Haganah, or a radical faction within it, meant to sink it as a dramatic act to force British concessions or martyr the passengers for global sympathy. British complicity or sabotage. Another theory suggests that the British, aware of Zionist plans, either allowed the bombing to proceed or tampered with the explosive to ensure a lethal outcome. The motive? To discredit the Haganah and justify their harsh immigration crackdown under the 1939 White Paper. A fringe idea posits that the modern Zionist leaders, like those in the Jewish Agency, sabotaged the Haganah's plan to undermine the more militant factions. The Patricia's sinking deepened internal rifts. Moshe Sharet authorized it while Ben-Gurion was away, and debates raged over its ethics. The more things change, the more they stay the same. If you don't laugh about it, you'll cry. This is just what the story is boiling down to. Passengers as sacrificial pawns. Some have wondered if the refugees themselves were knowingly sacrificed by Zionist planners who allegedly tipped off the British or rigged the bomb to fail spectacularly. The goal would have been to create a PR disaster for Britain, spotlighting the refusal to shelter Holocaust escapees. Cover-up of true cause. Initial British reports blamed the sinking on passenger sabotage, suggesting desperate refugees blew up the ship themselves. While this was debunked, some speculate the real cause was obscured, perhaps a mechanical failure or British explosives test gone wrong. Now here's the thing. The Patricia incident wasn't the first one, and the Struma incident is far from being the last one, okay? But by the time Struma rolled around, were the British just fed up with shenanigans? after the boat at Haifa ported and all of this went down, were they not even willing to risk porting a boat, right? Were they not even willing to risk it? So they just said, you keep that one over there, right? They were just exasperated by all the tensions. Could this be a more realistic point of view of how one event tied to the other? Patricia wasn't the first shipboard clash tied to Jewish migration under British mandate, and Struma surely wasn't the last. By late 1940, when Patricia sank, and into 1942 with Struma, the British were increasingly exasperated, caught between Zionist persistence, Arab resistance, and their own wartime priorities. The pattern of these incidents shows a mounting headache for the mandate authorities who were trying to enforce the 1939 White Paper's immigration cap while the world burned around them. Before Patricia, there were already flare-ups. Take the SS Tiger Hill in 1939. British gunboats fired on it off Tel Aviv, killing 2 Jewish refugees and forcing the ship aground to stop its 1,200 passengers from landing. Earlier still, 1934, the Velos, carrying 300 Jews, was turned back from Palestine, its passengers dumped in Istanbul. These weren't sinkings, but they set the stage. Britain was tightening the screws on illegal Aliyah Bet voyages well before Patricia's bomb went off in 1940. I don't know. These stories are so multi-layered and they're failures to me. Bureaucracy is just so dehumanizing. When you are well aware that escalations are happening against a particular group of people and they're trying to return home to the home that was theirs for thousands upon thousands of years, that was called throughout this entire time Eretz Israel, land of Israel. Okay? The state of Israel, this term state of Israel, is like a modern twist on this. But you can just see this, right? Where there's a need to go home. There's a need to end the suffering and go home. But it's also this multi-layered, we can't seem to break the cycle. Like, these same sort of narratives or bottom line of these stories is happening still even up until today. You know, the October failures, security failures, things that happen behind Netanyahu's back, or Netanyahu not being informed of October 7th while it was taking place. All of these things, these narratives that we're hearing, it all very much echoes these same stories. So we have to take a hard look at ourselves and ask ourselves, what exactly are we doing wrong? What exactly are we doing wrong? How do we break the cycle? What's the thing that we haven't done yet? What's the thing that we haven't tried yet? What's the thing we haven't done yet? And I think, you know, a big issue for us, especially in modern times, we not only went into the galut, but we embraced it, and then we bring it into Eretz Israel, which caused internal fractions with people who support Western ideology and this democracy and freedom of speech and all this stuff, and then people who feel the exact opposite coming from Far East countries, or people coming from Europe who have taken this sophistication and philosophical perspectives from the galut, and they've taken that and they've brought it into Eretz Israel, and they refuse to let it go. They refuse to let the galut go. They refuse to embrace our calling that God commanded us to do. They refuse many things, and there's all these fractions and divisions, and it ultimately comes down from a failure to let go of the galut, right? But it's so multi-layered. Like, it's really hard to, when you see all of the problems, you know, it's overwhelming. It's very overwhelming, but I think that's where unity comes in, and that everybody plays their specific role in the process of letting go of the galut.